More questions?
What happened to Viwamas?
I have absolutely no knowledge of Viwamas. I have no actually what I would call ascended master doctrine, genuine ascended master doctrine that refers to that being. That's hardcore, I know. But I'm very hardcore about this. If they aren't part of the genuine, what I consider to be the genuine lineage of ascended masters, I have to question them. So they may or may not be. I stay with stuff that I know is the real thing. Like, here's another example of that. People call Jesus Sananda. Okay, there is nowhere in any what I call legitimate, unimpeachable ascended master doctrine written anywhere that I see the name Sananda, other than as Sananda being one of the Kumaras. Sanaka, Sananda, there are 7 Kumaras. I do not remember all of them, but Sanat Kumara and Sananda are 2 names of Kumaras. Whether or not Sananda is Jesus, I suspect that he is, but this would make him a Kumara. And I don't know that for sure, and I don't get any answers when I ask that question. Sometimes I'll get an answer and I'll know right away, this is an answer. Other times I'll ask a question, I either get absolute silence or, just absolutely nothing. So that's an example of it. And I'm very cautious about this stuff like the Ashtar Command. I have no idea who these people are. They may be absolutely legitimate. But like I said, I even question Alice Bailey, and I know she's legitimate, but I know that there are problems with her teaching as well, based on the other teachings, and having read all of her teachings, and somewhat understood them. Also we have the problem of J. Krishnamurti, who was being, shall we say, groomed by Maitreya to be a world teacher, and at one point he said, "Oh, you don't need these ascended masters." So he disavowed the ascended masters, and therefore, by cosmic law, they were obligated to back away from him.
What was his name, did you say?
J. Krishnamurti. He's an Indian man. I think he's dead now. I think he's gone. One of his early books when he was just a teenager was overshadowed by the masters. So for me, the lineage is Blavatsky, Nicholas and Helena Roerich. We're working with El Morya. They have the books we call
How do you spell Roerich?
R-O-E-R-R-I-C-H.
R-O-E-R.
R-O-E, Roerich. They were Russians, and they worked with El Morya. They have what is called the Agni Yoga Society. It says Leaves of Morya's Garden on book 1 and 2, but there really is no mention of who any of these people are. There is no real publisher, no author, but that's the Roerichs. Agni Yoga Society. And then the I Am movement. And again, like I say, Alice Bailey, but because of certain issues, questionable. And then, of course, the Bridge to Freedom, Summit Lighthouse. And I've studied all these teachings at great length. And anything else, I know there's some stuff coming out of various other places, and I even know some of these people. But I question our legitimacy. It's not for me. I don't put my books on that list. I think they're right. I think they're good. But then it's not for me to put my books on that list. So I don't. I'm pretty hardcore about that. So I don't know. Well, Des, your question about Vimas or...
What is Kumara?
Kumara that's a good question. I've never heard it described adequately. It's some level of initiation and leadership. Sanat Kumara is the hierarch or lord of the world for Venus, and planetary logos for Venus. And I assume and I don't get anything really clear about this either. I assume that the Kumaras were all part of the vanguard that came with Sanat Kumara to planet Earth to hold the balance for light here. And I suspect, and I don't know why I don't get any information about this, but I suspect that Jesus and Saint Germain and Kuthumi and El Morya were part of that. I really highly suspect that they are part of that. You know, the Chohans and things like that, but I don't get any confirmation for some reason or other. Maybe it's not supposed to be released now. That's what I say. I don't really know.
Yeah, I got a visitation from Mahachohan Rakowski a few days ago. Do you know?
Who?
Master Rakowski?
Rakotsi?
Yeah. Okay.
Master R?
I pronounce the name.
Master R is really, the House of Rakotsi is really the Great Divine Director. And the Great Divine Director was Saint Germain's guru. And when Saint Germain feigned death as Francis Bacon, he went to the House of Rakotsi in Hungary, in the Carpathian Mountains. And they called him, in the Blavatsky's day, they called him Master R. Master R, or Rakotsi, is the Great Divine Director. And he is the Manu of the seventh root race.
He is what?
He is the Manu of the seventh root race. The Manu is the blue ray, or the lawgiver aspect, the father aspect in the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Okay.
As the Manu of the seventh root race, he's the overall Manu of all the root races. And looking at the as above, so below, we didn't come into the physical until the last third of the third root race, right? So the last third of the third root race, Lemurians we're calling them, the fourth root race, the Atlanteans, and we are the Aryan root race, or the fifth root race, and the sixth root race is now starting to embody, and then the seventh root race. So as I said, everything's septenary. It starts out in the etheric, and there's a chart over there of the Earth in 7 rounds. It gets down to the physical in about the 4th round. So the 4th root race was the densest. The densest time on planet Earth was during the Atlantean times. And we are in what we call the ascension arc, going up as a planet toward ascension. So if the first 2.5 or 2 2/3 of these root races were not in the physical, I interpolate that to mean that maybe what about these last 2, 6 and 7? Will they be physical? Less and less. So if we are, this is another question I don't get an answer for. Is this the end times? What does that really mean? Are we done on planet Earth? Well, planet Earth has another whole evolution in another plane. So are we going to continue on in the physical, in the 3rd dimension? Not forever. Not forever. When is that over? Good question. Boy, have I asked that a lot. This is the 7th 7. We are in the 7th age. When it talks in Revelations about the 7th age, or the 7th angel, this is Saint Germain, and basically what it's saying is we're in the end times. Does that mean the end of the world? Who knows? It means the end of the world as we know it. The Earth is going to ascend. I don't have that chart, but there's a line where the cosmic planes go. And we're in the fourth round, we're down here in the lowest, and we're already heading up to the next cosmic plane. When the Earth goes into the next cosmic plane, it will no longer support 3rd dimensional life. When we look at Venus through a telescope, we say, there's nobody living on Venus. Well, of course there isn't. Not in the 3rd dimension. We're looking at it in the 3rd dimension. There's nobody living in the 3rd dimension on Venus. They are our sister planet. They are a full round ahead of us. Of course we don't see them. When is Earth going to make that transition? Good question.